Last time we introduced several testing, including the toy testing, garment and apparel testing. Today, I will discuss the non-destructive testing. I think all of them already attend the industrial training in the PolyU Industrial Center and learn the basic technique of non-destructive testing. So it is just a revision. What are applications of the non-destructive testing? Okay, there are two reference books are available in our library: Introduction to Non-Destructive Testing and NDE Handbook, Non-Destructive Examination Method for Conditioning Monitoring. Actually, as discussed, it is non-destructive testing method. It is used to determine the integrity of material, component, or structure, or quantitatively measure some characteristic of an object. For example, actually, the NDT is commonly used in the, for example, to check the airplanes, construction material such as welding joint, and we may also use the NDT to measure the thicknesses of steel plate used in the boiler or air compressor. Okay. Here is summary to show what are the some use of NDT or NDE. E means examination. So sometimes we may use the NDT, the non-destructive testing. Some may use the NDD examiner. It means the non-destructive examination, such that to check any defect and any leakage, and check the locations and check the dimension. As mentioned, for example, we check the thicknesses of the steel plates and structure and microstructure characterization, estimation of mechanical and physical properties, and strap strength and dynamic response measurement, or material sorting, chemical composition determination. For example, for chemical testing, we may use the X-ray to check the heavy metal content. Why we use non-destructive testing instead of traditional destructive testing? Because the test pieces too precise to be destroyed, and the sample will be used after inspection, and the test pieces is in surface. For the purpose is just for quality control. Something simply cannot do harm, such as we would like to check human bodies. For example, some patient enter to the hospital and use X-ray to check any problems or CT scan. What are the NDT method used? For example, it can use it in different state. For example, assist in product development to screen or sorting incoming materials. It means that incoming quality control. To monitor, improve, and control manufacturing processes. For example, in the electronic manufacturing process, we may use X-ray to check the BGA package, so soldering quality. It is part of the manufacturing process. After the soldering process, to check any dislocations and to verify proper processing such as heat treatment, to verify proper assembly, to inspect for in-surface damage. For example, there are two major types of the NDT to detect the surface drop, such as by applying visual inspection, just your eye to check, or use some tools to magnify the image to check any defect on the surface of the products, or you apply the magnetic particle inspection or dye penetrate inspection. All of them just can inspect the surface defect. For the internal plot, we may use the radiographics such as the gamma ray or X-ray, etc. Ultrasonic testing and the current testing. I think some students already practice the technique. Okay, for the construction material testing, there are many different material will be used to make the building, make the road, etc. Now I would like to discuss what kind of testing will be applied in the construction material. Firstly, I would like to discuss what is the concrete. Actually, all building, bridge, or so for example, the wall is made of the concretes, and the composition of the concretes. It involves water, aggregate, reinforcement, chemical admixture, cement, and how we make the concrete. Firstly, we should mixing all raw material together, and then let's say the workability, and then currents. Finally, we'll discuss the property of concrete and concrete testing. Okay. Firstly, here some example of the construction material. What is concrete? Actually, it is one of the typical construction material. It is a mixture of Portland cement, water aggregate. In some cases, we may also add the mixture to modify the characteristic of the concretes. The cement and water form a press and harden and bond aggregate together, like as a glue, and often not around a man-made wall. It can be applied in a variety of agricultural and residential use. Its property is strong, durable, versatile, and economical. It can be placed on mold into virtually any shape and reproduce any surface texture. So that is why it will be widely used in construction industry around the world. The ready-mix concrete producer has made concrete and appropriate construction material for many applications. The photo shows a manufacturing pond to make the concretes. The composition of the concrete include water, aggregate, chemical admixture, and cement. Improper composition of concrete may make the defects. For example, water. Good water is essential for high quality concrete. So be good enough to drain, free of dust, free of organic matter, and other addictive chemical or minerals. The strength and other property of concrete are highly dependent on the amount of water and water-cement ratio. So seawater is not allowed to use that to make the concretes. And then the next important one material is the aggregates. Aggregate occupy about 60 to 80% of volume of the concretes. You can see the photo, there are many different small rock inside the aggregates and crushed stone. And all aggregate should be cleaned and free of organic matter. And then this one is chemical admixture. Material form a powder or fluid that are added in the concrete to give a certain characteristic not attainable with plain concrete mix. For example, we want to reduce the curing times It means drying times. Then we will add some mixture into the concrete mixture. In normal use, a mixture doses are less than 5% of the mass of cement and in the concrete at the time of pre-training mixing. Here are some common type of mixture used in the concrete accelerator. It will speed up the hydration of the concrete. Typical example used are calcium chloride or sodium chloride. Acrylics retainers slow the hydration of the concrete and are used in large or difficult pores. For example, table sugars. Air and training agent. The most commonly used mixture for agricultural concretes. It will produce microscopic air bubble throughout the concrete and train air bubble. It can improve the durability of concrete exposed to the moisture and improve the resistance to scaling from, for example, to remove the ice and corrosive agents. Water reducing mixture. It will increase the workability of plastic or fresh concretes, allow it to paste more easily with less than consolidating effort. Actually, for example, in Hong Kong, many concrete will add this water reducing mixture. And hiring water reducing mixture at the cost of water reducing mixture, it will improve the and increase the workability, reduce the water content of the concrete, and improve its strength and durability characteristics. Reinforcement, such as the common reinforcement is steel bar. Concrete have the high compression strength but lower tensile strength. The reinforcement can enhance the compression as the aggregate efficiently carry the compression load. As I mentioned, cement or concrete is weak in tension, holding the aggregate in place it will crack and allowing the structure to fail. So reinforced concrete solve this problem by either adding metal reinforcement bar, steel fiber, glass fiber, or plastic fiber to carrying both tensile and compression strength. Cement, it is crystalline compound or calcium silicon and other calcium compound having a hydraulic property. Consider hydraulic because of their ability to set and harden under or will exit water through the hydration of the cement's chemical compound or minerals. Actually, in Hong Kong, there is a cement manufacturing company. The cement, its main use is the fabrication of concrete or mortars. It can apply in different areas. For example, make the building, beach, road, water pipeline, a swimming pool, agricultural buildings, etc. And then we were talking about the concrete production. The manufacturing process develops physical and chemical properties like mechanical strength, lower moisture, permeability, and chemical or volumetric stability. A properly proportionate concrete mixture is important because it will provide good quality, high strength, and high durability. The manufacturing process involves 3 important stages: mixing the concretes, mixing all raw materials such as cements, the aggregate water chemical mixture together. And then the stage of workability finally is curing process. Mixing process is essential for production of uniform concrete and high quality concrete. The equipment and mixing method should be capable of effectively mixing. That is why there's a manufacturing plant for concrete making, such as this manufacturing plant shown in the photos. But what is the workability? The easy with which facility mixed concrete can be placed and finished without circulation. Difficult to measure, but ready mixed company usually have experience in determining the proper mix. Important to accurately describe what the concrete is to be used for and how will be pasted. For example, if the concrete will be used to make the road or to make the building, then the composition will be different. So you should tell the manufacturing plant the exact application subject of your ordered concretes. And curing process has a major influence of the property of hardened concrete, such as durability, strength, water tightness, wear resistant, volume, stability, resistant to pressure, and other factors. Proper concrete curing for agriculture and residential application involve, such as keeping newly pasted concrete moist and avoiding temperature exceed for at least 3 days. A 7-day or longer curing time is recommended. How we select the best curing method? Based on several factors such as cost, application equipment required, material available, size and strength of concrete surface, prevent the loss of maximum water for concrete by showing the surface. It can be done by covering the concrete with impervious paper or plastic sheet and apply membrane forming curing compound. When we start the curing process, then the concrete has hardened sufficiently to avoid erosion or other damage to the finished surface. It will usually within 1 or 2 hours after placement and finishing. What is the property of the concretes? And the concrete can provide high strength, high strength capacity strength, but weak in tensile strength. That is why we say the poor elasticity. And your proper mixture and your proper composition will cause surface crack. The cracking can be divided to 2 different classes: single gauge cracking and tensile cracking. Single gauge cracking will due to the, for example, too fast curing process, improper composition of the concrete mixture. Tensile strength means, for example, the concrete bar will subject to the tensile load. Then the tensile crack may happen. Okay, here, so I will briefly explain each characteristics. Strength. As I mentioned, concrete has relatively high capacity strength, low tensile strength. What is the difference? The tensile strength is about 10 to 15% of its capacity strength. The ultramain strength of concrete can be affected by, for example, water cement ratio, the design constitutes, the mixing process, the placement, and curing method. The function of moderate elasticity of aggregate and the cement matrix and their relative proportion will affect elasticity. Cracking or concrete structure will crack to some content. Cracking due to, for example, as I mentioned, tensile stress introduced shrinkage or stress occurring during the setting or use of the mixing method or improper composition. Okay, and then we will discuss what kind of testing will apply to such construction material. For example, the concrete testing, the most common is capacity testing. We will draw the sample from the final product, such as this concrete cylinder, and apply the compression load to check the maximum force to cause cracking. There are other construction material. Sorry. Okay, the first one, awesome. And the second one is aggregate, and then ferrous bridge, and then calcium. Awesome is commonly used in make the roll. It is in dark brown to black color. High viscosities, hydrocarbon produced by petroleum distillation residues. At least 80% is carbon. That is why it is in dark or deep black color. And sulfur is another ingredient. Normally, it will use it to make the roll. This one, can be separate from the other component in crude oils by the process of fractional distillation, usually under working condition. It is the part used to make separate SM. The physical property of such material. It has good durability, a measure of how some binding's physical property change with the age. Sometimes we will call it as an age hardening. And in general, and as some binding age, because for example, the roll become over and over, its viscosity increase and it becomes more stiff and brittle. That is why the surface of the roll should be replaced regularly. And then the second characteristics is to study the deformation and the flow of the matter. And then safety, this material, like most other material, volatilize when heated. It means that we should measure the flash point to avoid potential fire hazards or explosion. Varieties, the content of arsenic may consist of many other material. That is why we should check its varieties. Here is some example of the testing. For example, we apply the ASTM standard. We will check the specific gravity and densities. In your let me show the example, sorry. Yes, this one. Okay, a student Assam is made in Landmark Island. Actually, not. All Assam is import from mainland China. Okay, in your laboratory, although we will reschedule your laboratory, so you are not required to attend the laboratory next 2 weeks. But I would like to introduce what you will practice. So, for example, the first one, you will practice to verify of acoustic room and calculate or determine the uncertainty model. Okay, let me show the example. What you will learn in the laboratory. Sorry. Okay, the first one, experiment 1. You are required to verify an acoustic room in our physical mechanical laboratory. According to the European standard EN 71, it specifies all the acoustic measurement should be carried out in an approved acoustic environment. What is the requirement? It means it should meet the qualification requirement mentioned in EN ISO 11201 or 11202. And the test method is specified in ISO 3744 or 3746. There are several methods to prove whether the acoustic room meet or not meet the requirement. The ISO 11201 and ISO 11202 require us to calculate the two environmental correction, K2A or K3A. If the K2A less than or equal to 2 decibel, then it means the acoustic chamber will be grade 2 engineering grade, or K3A less than or equal to 4 decibel. It also means it is a grade 2 acoustic chamber. For grade 1, we will apply 3745 standard to check. But actually, all Hong Kong acoustic chamber are grade 2. That is why in this experiment, we will teach you how to apply the method to calculate. There are two common acoustic qualification methods to determine K2A specified in 3744. The first one, absolute comparison method. We will use a standard sound. It means there's a device to emit a single frequency sound, and then we will check the sound level in different locations and then calculate the K2A. In Hong Kong, no accredited laboratory is available to carry out this test. In our acoustic room, we asked a Guangzhou Institute of Metrology come to qualify our acoustic room. It is the test report because it is a China laboratory. So China version is only available. Okay, it's the joint means we will check 10 different points. The sound will place on the central of this hemispherical shaded, and then we will measure the sound level from different locations. It's a summary. Each time we will use a single frequency. Firstly, we will check the 100 Hertz and then 125 Hertz, etc. And then to calculate the individual K2 value. Finally, we will got the overall K2A. The K2A is 1.1. Because the standard 3745 require K2A less than or equal to 7. So that is why it means it is passed. But according to ES31, the requirement is 2 dB, not 7. So that we cannot directly refer this requirement. We should check whether the value of K2A meet or not meet ES71. Okay. And then this table shows the background noise and break down to different frequency band. For example, from 20 Hertz to 20,000 Hertz, and track the background noise. It is summary to show the spectrums of the acoustic tremor in different frequency. And then we will combine all frequency together and check out to find out the background noise on our acoustic room is 32.7 dB. Okay, and then when you go into our laboratory, you are required to apply this method, approximate method for measurement made with A rating. And you will use this equation to calculate and this table. Don't worry, I will teach you how to calculate the value step by step. Okay. Let me show the worksheet. Okay. Step 1. You are required to measure internal dimension of our acoustic room, rep, length, and height of the acoustic room, and calculate the means. And then calculate the total surface area of acoustic room. Sorry, it should be meter square, not meter cube. We use SV to represent the total surface area of the acoustic room. Step 3, determine the approximate value of the mean sound absorption coefficient. Then you are required to refer this table, table A1, mean sound absorption coefficient, alpha. Select the appropriate you think. The highest value is 0.5. It means the room with large amount of sound absorbing material on ceiling and the wall. 0.35 with sound absorbing material on both ceiling and wall. You should determine which one is most appropriate in our laboratory. That is why you are required to write down the value and explain why you select 0.5 or 0.35. Then calculate the equivalent absorbing area A, just alpha times SV, the surface area of the acoustic room. And then determine the surface area of test specimen. I will provide a toy. You are required to calculate its surface area. That is some equation how you to calculate. After you got the value, you can use this equation to calculate the K2A. Okay? And then you can check whether our question meet or not meet the N71 requirement, engineering grade 2 requirement. And then step 7. Yeah, you try to use our sound level meter to track the background noise. It is the requirement mentioned in ISO 11201 and ISO 11202. At different frequency band, you are required to check the measured value. Compare with the maximum band sound pressure level is allowed, calculate the difference. If the measured value is larger than the maximum band, then it is not meet. It's less than the maximum band sound pressure level, then the result is meet. You are required to fill this table. Step 8, develop measurement and setting model or sound level measurement. List all corresponding parameters contribute to type B MU model. In your year 3 study, you already learned how to develop the uncertainty model. You should write down all parameters using, for example, a symbol such as a theta to represent, for example, the distance. And then write down the equation of type B MU model by using all parameters you mentioned in step 8.1 and combine type A and type B MU model. Okay, it is our experiment 1. You got to do. And then experiment 2, skip resistance test. I will mention what is this in today's lecture. Actually, Hong Kong Highway Department published a guiding notes on road testing. Actually, it's just to check the friction, the road friction. We use this device. We follow ASTM EVOV standard. You are required to select 2 locations in physical mechanical lab and follow the operation procedure to measure the skid resistance. And the data should record on the data sheet. There's a skid resistance testing procedure video provided. Actually, I will show in the lecture today. It is the standard procedure. How we should use the skid resistance tester. And don't worry, Alex and other laboratory officers will demonstrate how the tester should be used and how we calibrate it before we use the tester. But you are encouraged to read the whole laboratory manual before you attend the laboratory section. And then experiment 3, tape test and pencil harness. Both tests is used to measure the adhesive characteristic of paint on a surface. The paint may be applied on plastic, wood, or other surface. In our experiment, we will apply the paint on a glass frame. You are required to apply both methods to check the adhesive characteristic of the paint. The first one, ISO 2409, coarse cut test. You use a razor to cut on the surface of the paint, and then use the tape to check whether the paint will be removed. It's ISO standard. And the second one, we will use different pencil to check the hardness. That is the device also mentioned in ISO, ASTM, or BS, GB standard. Both methods are commonly used in the industry. Different pencil will be provided. Okay, let me show the worksheet. Okay, that it is the data sheet to record the test data obtained from ISO 2405 and the other one, ISO 15185 pencil hardness. You will use the 3H to 3B pencil to check the pencil hardness. Just write down whether it can be removed. And you should check, also check what is the material of the test specimen. Is it made of metal or other? I already mentioned it is gases. And the coating thicknesses, actually, in the real testing, we will use different methods to measure the coating thicknesses. We may use for metallic sample, we may use a ecometer. It means the surface coating thicknesses meter to check. Because it is not made of the metal, we will use a microstructure to check the cross section and then check the thicknesses. Experiment 4, tear resistant fabrics. Fabric will be provided. You are required to cut the sample, content sample in both directions. And then follow this procedure to apply the tension and find out the tearing force. That's required for record the force. It is the data sheet, and then you are required to answer a question, discuss the direction of fabric affects the tear resistance. It means how the direction of fabric will affect the values. I think you can base on the result to answer the questions. Experiment 5 is talking about the drop ball test. We will follow a standard ASTM license 3 2017 version to check, for example, the gases. Actually, sun gases, toy gases, or all real gases will follow a similar procedure to check whether the lens will be cracked or broken after the test. We will use a steel ball. The standard already mentioned the waist, the dimension, and then we will use the ball drop on the lens of the gases. I'll provide different product to you to check whether it will broken or not. And then experiment 4, determination specific gravity. In your year 2 study, I think you have carried out a test that use a jewelry to check its density. It was a standard method applied in jewelry, but for other materials such as plastic, we will use density bottle to check the specific gravity. We will demonstrate how we use the density bottle. Just follow this one step by step to do. Experiment 7 will provide the light intensity meter, lux meter, and you are required to measure the light intensity in the laboratories. First location, workbench, and then second one, thin-cut board to check the light intensity and conclude whether the result is appropriate or not, and any suggestion based on the result. So you are required to just write down the. You are required to draw how to measure and the value. Okay. And then next one, a bicycle, foldable bicycle will be provided. It is just a hazard evaluation. You are required to read a standard. ASTM standard is provided. You should read this requirement carefully. It means the power transmission, such as train and the gear and the belt, should be encoded. What is the dimension required? And then you are required to check our sample. This one meet or not meet the standard. It is just an evaluation. If the bicycle will fail the requirement, please suggest how to improve the product. And last one is a mini project. A plush toy will be provided to each group. You are required to follow ASTM F93 to apply the testing requirement and a build test. A force diagram is provided. It means I already teach you how to carry out the test, such as tension, torque. This is the diagram to show how you should apply the torque, which location you should apply the torque test. You should carry out all tests on these push toys. And then you are required to answer. Use this version, answer all questions. Try to fill. And it has whether the product meet 4.1 requirement or not. So that is mean you should read the whole standard carefully and answer all questions. There are some hints already provided on each courses. If you are in doubt, you can ask us during the lessons. Okay. That is in your laboratory section. The hard copy of the laboratory manual and the worksheet will be provided during the lessons. Okay, now I would like to take a break and we will restart the lecture at 10:10.